Dominic Perrottet is the Treasurer of New South Wales. Pleased to say he joins us now, and I'm pleased to say on the behalf of the small business community, thank you for the action, particularly when it comes to these payments of between the $1,500 all the way to $10,000 payments that'll be there. Can I just clear something up? Is that a weekly payment to a small to medium business, a fortnightly payment, a monthly payment, and when does it start from?
Yeah, well, g'day, Paul. Look, the micro businesses, which have a turnover of less than 75,000, above 30,000, it's a $1,500 a fortnightly payment. We have our own small business grants, which go up to $15,000 a one-off payment. And the agreement we entered into with the Commonwealth yesterday provides up to $10,000 a week from next week, which will go to over 200,000 businesses across the state to give them that support. Now, we think that those funds, expressions of interests, are available from today. And from 19th of July, a number of those payments will be made available, or applications made available, and from the 26th of July, the next tranche. So I guess the challenge is there's so many of these payments available through Service New South Wales. But what we're encouraging all businesses across the state today is to contact Service New South Wales, go through what payments you're eligible for, whether it's payroll tax relief, payroll tax deductions, land tax deductions, because the range out there, because my focus as Treasurer of this state is to make sure we keep as many people employed during this time and keep as many businesses going.
I'm not afraid to ask the dumb question from time to time, so get ready for one here. But it might be a question a lot of people are considering right now. A lot of my mates and family members in small business, their first port of call has been to try to talk to their accountant to be able to say, well, how do I prove up, down, here or there? What effort happens behind the scenes to make sure that the accountants of New South Wales are across all of these different variables? Because accountants were such a key part in being able to help people work out how to get their paperwork in place for things like JobKeeper. Now, I get it. They see what they see in the news and you're a busy bloke and you've got other things to do. But behind the scenes, how do you get that information flow to that poor bugger or that poor Sheila who's just trying to work out how this works?
Well, we've been doing a lot through Treasury and Revenue New South Wales here in our state. We've had a lot of inquiries from accountants. What we're saying is that if you had a 30% reduction in turnover from 2019, and the reason we've chosen that date was because it was before the pandemic, but there are obviously businesses as well that were set up post-2019. So this is not, we don't want things to be difficult. We want to make this as easy as possible. Obviously, there are risks of fraud as well along the way, and we've got audit teams in place down the track. But, I'm going to err on the side, Paul, of getting money out the door to get to businesses to make this as easy as possible. In many cases, whether we're talking about reduction of headcount, which we don't want to see as a result of applying for these grants, you can just make your own application and say that, that you won't be reducing headcount. Now, yes, that takes risk, but where we sit at the moment in our state, I want to make sure as many businesses as possible are able to access these programs as quickly as possible, get the money out the door to support businesses who are doing it incredibly tough at this time. And I think if you look at the agreement we reached with the Commonwealth yesterday, it also ensures that payments are also made to workers. We want to make sure that workers keep their jobs, businesses have the confidence that they're going to get through this difficult time. And we've done that over the last 18 months. There's a lot of negativity around pandemic response and vaccine rollout, but let's take a step back. Australia, New South Wales, we've done very, very well. We've kept people safe. Our economy here in New South Wales is stronger than it was prior to the pandemic. All the jobs we lost over the last 18 months, we've recovered, plus tens of thousands more. So we're going to get through this hurdle. It's a tough time in our state, but I think the support package we announced yesterday will help many businesses and workers get through.
A mate of mine had a good way of putting things, which I'm sure is how you feel, which is we've all had that experience where we're at the barbie and then somebody comes up and stands next to you and says, oh, Dom, you got to turn the sausages every 5 minutes. No, you got to do this with the steak. No, move the onion rings, mate. You got to move this around. So no doubt, and I'm one of those people standing next to you at the barbecue telling you how things should and shouldn't work. But I do want to ask you this. you're often known as the bloke who is, along with John Barilaro, really clear set of eyes inside that emergency cabinet, right? I do not understand how this many weeks into lockdown, we're still talking about the preparation of kids have to stay at home across the entirety of Greater Sydney. Now, I've listed earlier in the program local government areas with 0 cases, or local government areas that have 2 or 3, like places like the Northern Beaches that already were punished, already locked down, already lost Christmas at the end of last year. Can you please tell me, is there a daily conversation about getting kids back to school, not we'll do this every 2 weeks like Palaszczuk carried on about the borders last year?
Well, it's regular, Paul, and I can tell you as a dad of 6 kids who's now trying to put these packages together and somehow homeschool my children at the moment, I'm particularly incentivised to get them out of the house and back into the classroom. So I can assure you these, and even from an economic perspective, when we were going through some of those difficult times last year, the number one thing that we can do right now is get kids back into school and ultimately allow parents to be able to get back into work. And many people are working from home, but it's obviously pretty hard to do that when you're homeschooling children. So we are regularly having these conversations. And one of the things we were focusing on earlier was making sure that teachers in terms of vaccination are prioritised. That's probably the number one thing in terms of, whilst we're in lockdown at the moment, that we want to open up. We want kids back at school. I think obviously we've extended the lockdown today for a couple of weeks, but I would say that's at the top of the list of things we want to get back as quickly as possible, not just for our kids, but for the sanity of our parents as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, it's just this thing where I get this feedback like you would. There's literally, I can't go to the other side of town and drop my kids off at a mystery school. I can only qualify for the school that's in my suburb, and my suburb currently has 0 cases. So I get it. I get that there was a moment in time where we're dealing with everything. We don't know what's happening with the blob, but now you're starting to get a localised picture.
Well, Paul, our positions evolve over time, and our discussions and debates within those crisis cabinets are always focused on what's in front of us today, but also what comes next. And we've had success in the past here, as you say, when the Northern Beaches went into lockdown, that we were able to localise that issue. So, yes, at the moment, we've had challenges over the last week and particularly the last few days in southwestern Sydney. But ultimately, we've got to make sure that our policy thinking is changing to deal with the challenge that's in front of us. And it's a dual crisis, right? Like, yes, we need to keep people safe. There's a focus on the health side, but at the same time, there's a significant focus on the economic side too, because, and that approach has really helped New South Wales and I think our country over the last 18 months. But if we don't, you can't have your thinking that occurred 6 months ago in a different scenario be the same as you're facing today. And we're always looking, and I can tell you as Treasurer in those meetings, we're always looking at what's in front of us and what's the best policy approach to take to evolve our thinking to make sure we keep as many people in work, as many people in jobs, and make sure society is as flourishing as possible.
Good on you, Dom. Thanks for the chance to chat tonight, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers, mate.